Welcome to State Lobbying Heroes Podcast, a podcast where we delve into the careers and personal life stories of some of the best and the brightest state government relations experts. I'm your host, Deepak, CEO of Legislator. Chris Emanuel was hired as an airline pilot at the prime age of 21. He served with US Airways for 38 and a half years, where he flew different types of aircrafts, worked as a manager in the training command to train different pilots. Once he retired from this long and distinguished career at US Airways, he started volunteering in politics, where he worked with different candidates in statewide elections. Meeting with different legislators and lobbyists at the NCGA, he loved the field of lobbying. He then started his own boutique lobbying consulting firm in Charlotte and never looked back from that point. Let's listen to this interesting story of Chris Emanuel in this next episode of State Lobbying Heroes. Thank you so much for joining me.
Anytime, Deepak. I'm happy to cooperate with you. I'm so excited about Legislator. It's helped me as being basically a one-man band. We'll get into it, and I'll tell you all the great things that your software has done for me. Okay.
Oh, thank you so much. This podcast is primarily about you, more than me and my service. I'd like to know more about you. Let's start off with, how did you get started with lobbying? Okay, just tell us exactly.
This is an interesting story from my end of it. They say that necessity is the mother of invention. And I was very young when I got hired as an airline pilot at age 21. I was very fortunate, and I spent a very long career, 38 and a half years with US Airways, and I flew a lot of different types of aircraft overseas, narrow-bodied, wide-bodied aircraft. I also was selected to be in management. So I worked as a manager in the training command, which afforded me the opportunity to train pilots, to write and perform some things such as fundamentals of instructing, psychology of instructing. So I was involved in a lot of different things. Now, that being said, although I had a very nice long career, I was subject to 2 bankruptcies with the airline. When that happened, that forced a liquidation of the majority of my retirement. So I said, if I want to maintain my lifestyle, what do I need to do? Well, I started out volunteering in politics, and I did a lot of work with different candidates in statewide elections, which afforded me the opportunity to meet members of the General Assembly. And meeting those people, a lot of them I worked with even before they were representatives or senators. I had the opportunity to select some to be regional workers, campaign workers for different candidates that I represented at the time. So at the end of the tenure in 2012, working for 3 or 4 statewide campaigns, I decided to start the lobbying group, the C.G. Emanuel group. So I just jumped into it, knowing some of the people. I was very fortunate. I met some fellow lobbyists who were very kind to me, who even assisted me and they showed me different angles of the game and that type of thing. And what impressed me the most about the lobbying field in general, Deepak, most of these people look at lobbyists as a brotherhood. In other words, we help each other out too. We also, when we're in Raleigh, many of us get together for dinner and recreation, sit and talk and that type of thing. So that's how I started with. And then from that point, I designed, or I had my person design a website that reflected what I wanted to do. Obviously, I didn't want to be a real big person, even if I could acquire a lot of the contracts. I wanted to be a boutique. And that boutique, living in Charlotte, North Carolina, meant that I needed to find clients in the Charlotte area, probably mid to small size companies that need government relations.
So what was the last flight you flew or trained someone?
Well, the last flight I flew was from Philadelphia to Rome, and then I retired.
Oh wow, what a way to end it. That's pretty cool. So now after you retired, then you got into lobbying, and you said you wanted to just dabble with it to see, how that lobbying thing worked, and that's when you just got your feet wet in politics. Is that how you got started?
Well, the way I got my feet wet in politics was I helped a candidate,
Hmm.
and I seemed to have a love for it, feel like I'm a people person. And I think part of being a lobbyist is being a people person. You have to like your job, you have to like people,
Hmm.
and you like to help people. And I know a what a lobbyist does in some cases is he can advise the politician or the senator, let's call it, or the representative or whoever the elected official is on a knowledge of something. For example, if someone was to ask me about aviation, I think I could help them to some extent with that,
Hmm.
with my knowledge of aviation.
So when you said you helped some candidates, was that like within North Carolina state? Is
It
that
was
how you
all within North Carolina. I would help them get elected. That's correct.
got it? Okay. And then when you say you help them get elected, it's like you ask, like, you talk to people, you tell them what they're for, and you get votes for the person. Is that what it
That's
is?
correct. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And then after that you got into lobbying. And when you are a lobbyist, or you're currently a lobbyist, so what kind of issues do you help people with?
Well, I stay away. I stay away from social issues. That's just a personal preference. I tend to like technology, but I have done work with drones, which my knowledge of in aviation has helped me a lot. I've done work in finance. One example might be something that we did a few years ago. If someone, if you were to buy gold, silver coins, bullion, or other currencies, you had to pay a sales tax for that in North Carolina. And I lobbied. I was hired by a firm that sold coins, and they were in a situation where they didn't know if the coin dealers, approximately 117 coin dealers within the state of North Carolina, would stay in business because they could go to South Carolina, some of our neighbors, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia, or a total of about 38 states, and buy gold, silver coin, bullion, whatever it might be, without paying a sales tax. So after lobbying, I was able to, through the help of several people in the General Assembly and the governor who signed the bill, turned out to be a bipartisan bill. That's the most fun for me. I like to work with all kinds of people. I work with Democrats, independents, Republicans, whoever it might be. I work all across the board.
Mm.
That's just what I like.
Yeah.
And it's very gratifying to help people and to be able to get that done.
So yeah, you were talking about how you eliminated the sales tax for the buying gold and silver.
Right.
What was there anything else you can think of during?
Oh, sure. Other things. Well, I got involved several years ago. Energy became somewhat of an issue. They found that in North Carolina has what's called a Marcellus shale. In other words, there's a lot of gas in North Carolina. Of course, now gas being so cheap and with fracking, it's not practical to harvest oil and gas in North Carolina. In other words, I'll give you an example. There's in North Dakota, gas is so cheap to build to bring a unit to harvest the gas would cost $1 million, and it doesn't pay. But I got involved, and we were somewhat instrumental in getting a energy bill passed so that they could harvest gas in the state of North Carolina, which never came to pass, but we have it on the books for now.
And when was this?
If my memory serves me right, I want to tell you 2014 to 2015, somewhere around in there. Okay.
Okay. So
I
you
don't
work.
remember exactly. I lose track of time.
That's fine. So yeah, so you worked even on the energy sector as well.
Energy sector. Also, I was involved with the only lobbyist that I know of who got a contract for drone,
Mm.
and I worked with the General Assembly for designing some of the drone rules for flying drones. We talked about that, and
And these were like commercial drones, or I mean, is it like for?
well, it would be for commercial use. Yes, it would be drones for commercial use. The Federal Aviation Agency ultimately is the ones who have the rules for flying drones, which are right now are still being designed and worked on. But North Carolina, the state of North Carolina, wanted an initial set for operating drones. So I was helped out with that too, with my knowledge in aviation. I participated in that with a client that was making wanting to set up a factory in North Carolina to produce commercial drones.
So, I mean, does this apply even to like Amazon, right? I keep hearing that Amazon wants to use drones for deliveries. Is this related to that, or is this not?
Yes, well, it could be related to that. There's other lobbyists now that probably work with Amazon and UPS and FedEx and people like that. But I work for one company who was the organization that built the drone that
Mm.
others may use.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. And so,
In other words, I worked for the Chevrolet company for General Motors that built the drones that could be sent where someone would hire to drive the General Motors truck, for example, back and forth to use in an analogy. Okay.
I see.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. That makes sense. Okay. So, what is your philosophy in lobbying?
My philosophy in lobbying. Well, that's interesting. Boy, that's a tough one. What is my philosophy on lobbying? Well, I could say several things. Probably be very assured of yourself. In business, don't intimidate nor be intimidated by different situations. Could also say that be a people person. Everybody wears a uniform wherever that uniform is.
Mhm.
So the uniform is business. So it's usually a white shirt or a blue shirt, coat and tie. So I think basically to get down to it though, to be good at it, to be good at what you're doing, you have to like people and treat people as you want to be treated. Treat people like you want to be treated. And by doing that, you'll find success. You know, they say there's an old adage that good guys finish last, but in lobbying, that's not true. Good guys finish first. Okay.
That's true. That's well said. So, is that your final words in terms of like what advice you
That's
would
my
give for?
final words for this interview, Deepak. But
Okay.
let me just add one more. No, actually, that's not my final word.
Okay.
What has helped me tremendously, here comes the commercial. Your software has made my job so much easier. You got to remember, I'm not a 20-man game where we look at this. So the legislator comes up and says, hey, check this out in this bill that you filed and whatever. The money that you charge is well worth it. And I would say that other lobbyists, if you're not with Deepak, call Deepak, get on board and sign up. How's that? That's my
Wow.
final word.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. I really do appreciate the kind words. I was truly honored to have this small yet unique conversation with Chris. Thanks so much for listening to the show and for your wonderful support. See you next time.